I've recently had reason to spend some time on doing models for early stage ventures. So new venture challenges for founders and investors. Here are some of the questions. Will it work at all? And one case I worked on recently, the founder came and spent a morning with me. We built the model for his business. And within 2 hours, we figured out it wouldn't work. It sounded okay on paper, but when you worked the numbers through and made the model work, the model said, it won't work. So we spent the lunchtime figuring out how to change its business model and turn it into something that would work. How much funding will it need? So how much do you need to put in? When will it pay off? Are you going to see break even here or here or here? Is this 2 years or 1 year or 3 years or 5 years? When are you going to start getting some money back? And when you do, how much will you get back? And then, how are you going to manage this thing? You know, to get up here, you're now starting to talk about quite a large business, quite a lot of employees, quite a lot of marketing, quite a lot of customers, quite a lot of distributors in this case. That's complicated. So how are you going to manage all of that? And there are more questions as well. So first of all, what help do we get from existing methods? I'm going to take an example here of an early stage business, and it's a business which is selling home control systems. And this is a kind of business known as an Internet of Things business. The way it works is that you have devices attached to things in your home, and they respond to unexplained activities. So, you know, that window shouldn't be open, the power shouldn't be on here, why is the heating gone on, all those kinds of things. So the system tells the homeowner that something's happening. The homeowner could be in the home, or they could be out of the home, and the homeowner can then respond and tell the system what to do about it. And key to this is that the system adapts to changing household behavior. A basic installation is possible for skilled homeowners who can do basic do-it-yourself tasks at home. All systems can be set up by skilled installers. The initial unit cost, so this is the cost to us of making the system, you know, producing the devices and what they need to be connected. It starts at about $250, but as we produce more, we'll get experience curve and learning curve benefits from that, and that cost will fall. We then decide what price to charge to installers or to retailers who stock the device. The second thing we decide is we've got to get consumers to know about this, so we do web-based marketing. We also spend money on magazine advertisements. So our third decision is how many salespeople we will have. Now, the reason we need salespeople is that these installers are relatively small local businesses all around the place. So they are installers who install technology things in your home. So if you've got an electric garage door, that kind of thing, if you've got remote control blinds on your windows, it's those kinds of companies. And there's quite a lot of them, so we need salespeople to persuade them to sell the product. And when the product becomes popular, but only when it becomes popular, it is likely that retail store chains, home improvement stores, will start to stock the thing, so the more skilled homeowners over here could actually buy it for themselves and install it at home. And not surprisingly, lower prices result in greater sales, both for installers and for retailers. So this is what the founder of this business hopes will happen over 36 months. So this is 3 years, 36 months. They hope that the unit sales will rise to something like, let's say, 8,000 units per month. And if that happens, they hope that we will move the business from losses. And what we want to have happen is we want to get revenue and profit from these growing sales so that we gradually move to break even, and then we start to make profit, and this profit pays back all of the money we spent in those early periods. This really has been helpful. Over on the right, you describe and specify the customer segments that you're trying to serve. So in this case, initially, tech-savvy and higher-income homeowners. Later on, knowledgeable and lower-income homeowners, but not the very poorest homeowners. Customer relationships, where you have online relationships with consumers. When they've bought your devices, then they register their system online. You have a sales and supply and support relationship with installers, and you have a sales and supply relationship with retailers. You use indirect sales channels through installers and through retailers. We could add to that direct sale to consumers off your website. The value proposition to the homeowner is that this is a low-cost solution to avoiding expensive problems in your home. To installers, the value proposition is that this is an easy sell to existing and to potential new customers. To retailers, this is an incremental sales and cash flow opportunity. It's another thing on the shelves. It's quite a high value item compared with others that they sell. And of course, it makes them look as though they're at the kind of front edge of technology. They're selling one of these kind of Internet of Things products. Key resources you need here: the devices, the system and the software, the staff, and the installers and retailers themselves are resources here. Key activities: this gets a bit involved. You have to develop the devices, software and system. That's basically done by this point. But we've got the thing basically working. You've got to be able to do awareness marketing, you've got to recruit installers, you have to sell into store chains, you have to hire sales and support staff, you have to outsource and manage the production of product, you have to manage the supply chain to make sure that the product comes through and is available. Key partners are the installers, the retailers, the outsourced manufacturer. How do we make money? The revenue comes from the wholesale price of units you sell. So you sell it at a price to the installers and the retailers. They then sell it at a higher price to the consumer. That's basically how it works. And the cost structure, well, there is a unit cost of making and supplying the thing, and then you have costs of marketing, sales staff, and overhead. So this is very useful, and new ventures spend a lot of time debating, discussing and evaluating whether this is right, what kinds of numbers might be involved, is it feasible, is this value proposition going to work for this customer segment and for these channels? But questions remain. We need to go further than this. So the first thing is we've got to start measuring some of these things. Then we've got to start putting scale on this. Are there 100 potential customers for this thing, or are there 100,000? Do we need to employ 5 staff for this thing, or do we need to employ 500? Is the price of it going to be $5 or $5,000? Now, here's the key question. It's the one we started with way back at the beginning. Will this actually work? Right? We put all this together. Will it actually work? Will anybody buy it? Can we make it available? Will they pay us enough for it to make enough money to make it worthwhile to supply it? Will the installers want it? Will it work at all? Then we want to test it. We want to say, how sensitive is it to uncertainties? If we've estimated this number of potential households, what if that number is only 20% of that? What if the number is 5 times larger? What if the kind of threshold price for anyone to buy this thing is not $200 but $90? Right? We want to test sensitivities. We want to test our strategic choices. And lastly, we want to fill in that chart we started with right at the beginning. What's going to happen to sales, and what's going to happen to cash flow? And how much financing does this need to get the thing going? So what do we really need from business models? We need quantified working models that replicate how the real world works. Why do we want to do that? So we can explore the future, both our own strategies and our sensitivities to external events. So what we need then, and what we've not been able to do until quite recently, is we've got to get from the strategy to a time-phase action plan. Who's going to do what, when, how much, with what likely impact on performance? Only then can you get to the financial and other results the business is going to produce. You can't jump from here to here, but that's what we've been trying to do for the last half century. write down the strategy, and then go and project the financial results that will come out of it. Frankly, it's not good enough. It's not good enough for investors, it's not good enough for employees, it's not good enough for customers, and it's not good enough for our economists. We must do better. And this is what we've not been able to do. Figure out what to do. So how is a system view going to solve this challenge? Well, you have to stand back and say, well, what is a business? What is an organization? What is an enterprise? Any enterprise is a designed system. Whether intentionally or not, people have made it the way it is. They have created it to work in a certain way. So they've got two responsibilities. Firstly, they've got to design the system so that it could perform well. Then they've got to manage the system so that it actually does perform well. So how should our HomeControl's business system work? Well, we want to grow the sales to homeowners, and our marketing will make that happen. Well, it'll get them interested. It'll get people interested. It won't actually sell very much to them. Right? To sell it to them, certainly in the early days, we need the installers. The installers sell to early adopters among the homeowners. So we need the salespeople to promote the product to the installers. You're beginning to see some of the items that we had on the business model canvas. You see them beginning to get kind of connected up and linked together here. If we lower the price, then we expect that more of those potentially interested homeowners would buy the product. And if all that starts happening, then retailers will start stocking the product. And out of all that, we get essentially the financials, the income statement. Revenue comes from sales multiplied by price, minus the cost of the product. That leaves gross profit. And you take off that the costs of sales and marketing costs and overhead, and that leaves you with an operating profit. So if you go to that link, sdl.re, HomeControls 1, this is what you will see. This is a control panel for the system dynamics model that actually is this business. Right. And the first column here is just keeping a track of your decisions. This is the sales performance, this is your income statement, and this tells you what's happening to your cash. You're raising cash, so this is all the cash you've raised, and this is what happens as you use up that cash growing the business.
So here is the working model that you'll find if you go to the link at sdl.re/HomeControls1. So as you get to the model, it displays the base case results, which result from making continuous decisions on marketing, sales force and price. The reason we get some increases in sales in later months is because the product has become sufficiently attractive that retail store chains start to stock the product. So to carry out a comparison run and try some different decision options here, first of all click on the up arrow next to the blue time bar to show the controls for the model, and click the green button to add a comparison run. This gives you control over the price you charge to installers, the amount you spend on consumer marketing, and the number of sales staff you employ to sell to installers. You'll notice that the base case lines have gone thin and time has rolled back right to the start. So you're now able to step through the model, making your own decisions. Step forward a couple of months first of all to see what happens with the initial decisions. We're using up the little bit of cash that we had, maybe from our own resources or raised from family and friends. So the next thing that happens is that the business raises a more substantial sum of money, maybe from crowdfunding or from angel investors. We've now got the resources to do rather more with the business than we were able to do before, so we put up the amount of money we're spending on consumer marketing by quite a large amount and step forward 2 or 3 more months. We're losing money rather faster than we were simply because we're spending more, but at least sales are beginning to take off. Before long our profits start climbing and actually exceeding not only what we were achieving in the base case, but also running ahead of our expectations in the dotted line in the income statement chart. our actual sales of systems are also well ahead of what we thought they would be. Perhaps we should increase the number of sales staff, try and get some more installers promoting our product. So put that up to 20, run forward another few months. And now we are about to run out of cash once again. The business raises some more cash and continuing for 2 or 3 more months. We can see that losses have now turned into profits and our current cash position is getting no worse. We've probably captured most of the installers for the product by this time, so maybe we don't need so many sales staff on that task that we had before. And if we follow this through now to the end, we'll see that both sales and profits climb really quite strongly. Although system sales are not quite up with our aspirations that we had in the first place, profitability and cash flow is really looking a lot stronger. If you want to see what's happening in the model itself, scroll down and you can see first in the pale yellow section the adoption of the home control systems by the households that we're hoping to attract. This may be an unfamiliar way of looking at a business plan, but just think of each item in this diagram as being equivalent to a column in a spreadsheet, with the name in the top cell of the column and the 36 values running down the rows below that column heading. The connecting arrows between items in the diagram you can think of as being equivalent to cell references in a spreadsheet. So inside the object installer sales success, for example, there is a simple language formula that tells the model how to calculate that success rate given the percentage of households who are interested and the price that's being charged. That sales success is added to the sales we achieve through retail stores and generates the total rate at which systems are being sold each month. The red line in that chart is our original aspiration, the blue line is the base case, and the green line is the result of this particular comparison run. Those systems are depleting the number of potentially interested households to the left, and the installed base of households is increasing to the right. Below that yellow section is the structure that captures how installers are being won over to installing the system and the number of homes per month that those installers manage to reach. Next to that in the blue area is our capture of large do-it-yourself retail store chains. The mauve area to the right is capturing the income statement with revenue and gross profit coming in at the top from the sales that are being achieved in the yellow area. And lower down we have the salary and marketing costs driving the total operating expenses of the business. The section to the far right is simply capturing, in very simple terms, what's happening to operating cash flow, the cash that we're raising and the current cash position of the business. To carry out another comparison run, simply go back up to the control panel area, click the red remove comparison button and start all over again. So having done this a few times now, it looks like there are 3 places where a living business model of the kind we've been looking at could be very helpful for early stage ventures. And the very first place is, before you start doing anything, to figure out whether your idea of the business model could possibly succeed at all, and whether it might need modifying to make it so that it could succeed. Secondly, once you've actually got something going, you can use your early learning to assess how sales and cash flow could possibly develop, and you're definitely going to need a pretty confident view of that projection if you're going to go and get the finance you need for the business. And of course, as events unfold and you need more cash, you might have to go back round and raise finance once again. But it doesn't stop there. This same model, once you've started populating it with information about how the business is actually working from period to period, you can turn that into an operational managerial tool that you and the senior team can use for figuring out how to actually run the business from period to period, making the right decisions all the time as things continually unfold. And just a footnote here, exactly the same principles, it turns out, apply to initiatives that are taken by established companies, whether it's launching a new product or entering a new market or trying to tackle a competitor. could it succeed? How could it succeed? How might sales and cash flow develop once the initiative gets started? And then how do you manage the initiative as time passes by? So let's have a look at a couple of companies that have actually used this approach for these three purposes. The first one is a company called Opun, and this business was founded to help homeowners with home improvement projects. This is the kind of thing that people don't do very often, and it's a high value purchase, so they're a bit nervous, they've got no experience, they don't really know what is a good project and what isn't. The way this works is that marketing, mostly web marketing, brings inquiries from homeowners to the website. The homeowner then enters information about the project that they want to have done to their home, and skilled service staff check those projects out, help the homeowner to specify them accurately, and then they match those projects against a list of potential contractors who could actually do the work. Other staff, meanwhile, have been recruiting and approving trusted contractors. There are a lot of, shall we say, less reputable contractors in this sector of the economy, and having people who know what they're doing, carrying out assessments on contractors and making sure that they've got proper insurance and training and those kinds of things is an important thing for the consumer to have confidence. Those contractors then quote a price for the project, and the consumer picks the contractor they want to do it, and the same service staff who helped specify the project in the first place supervise the project as it progresses. So the company launched in February 2015. These are the founders of the business, and Rob Brown actually built the model before he got started. Once he and John had got the business going, they then improved the model and extended the model and tested their own assumptions and uncertainties regarding how the business might develop, and got it to the stage where they were confident to take it to investors, and they were then able to raise £3 million to finance the early growth of the business. And what they've done since is they've developed the model further, and it is now used for weekly operating decisions. They have a weekly stand-up meeting with the management team, head of operations, head of contractor support, head of marketing, head of finance, and checking how everything is going on a week-by-week basis. The latest week of information gets added to the model, and they use it to check the timing and the scale of things that they're planning to do. Should we increase consumer marketing or hold it back because we haven't got enough contractors right now? Which particular kinds of contractors should we be trying to recruit and approve? When will that be likely to happen? And so on. The second example concerns a company called Powervault, which makes a home energy storage device. The principle is very simple. Solar roof panels generate power during the day, the problem being that households actually need that power in the evening. So Powervault is a kitchen unit size box with either lead acid or lithium ion batteries inside it. Lead acid may seem a little old-fashioned these days, but it's actually got very good power storage characteristics for this kind of purpose. But they are moving up to lithium-ion battery units as well. And those store that solar power, and then the stored power is fed back into the home power network to cut the purchase of power from the grid at peak hours. Somewhat like the HomeControl's product, these units are sold to existing and new solar panel owners through, in this case, companies that install solar PV panels on people's roofs. And there's a further channel here to sell these units to larger multi-dwelling owners, organisations like housing associations and larger landlords. This is what the units look like, and the managing director of the company developed the model to build his confidence to raise the initial financing that needed. He's since been round the cycle again and used the same model, developed a little further to raise additional financing. And rather like Opun, he and the team have now extended the model and used it to gain board approval for each budget cycle, and to make decisions about marketing and sales priorities, and to plan their staffing. So this model too is now in continuous use to help guide the business.